Hi, I'm Jeremy, and today I'm going to show you Heckmeck Extrawurm, which is an expansion to the German dice rolling game Heckmeck, which was published in English as Pickomino. The Heckmeck expansion does work with Pickomino; they're completely compatible, and this does come with English rules. So whichever version of Pickomino you have, you should be able to still use this expansion. It adds a few additional rules and a few additional tokens to one of my favorite dice fillers. I'll take a moment to show you the rules of the game, and I'll come back and give you my thoughts on it. Okay, so these are the components you're going to get with the expansion to Pickomino, and you have to set them up like you would in a normal Pickomino game. First of all, you'll take these two tiles, the 11 and the 13 tile, which have these boxes on them because they cannot be stolen, and they just go at the front of the line as if you were setting them up as additional tiles. Then you'll place some of these pieces. There's this worm, which will count as an additional worm for you as long as you haven't rolled worms during your turn. It goes on the 11. The chicken goes on the 21. And you have to look this up in the rule book. I do wish there was some way that they indicated on the pieces themselves their starting positions. The raven goes on the 23. This golden die goes on the 27. And the weasel goes on the 25. You'll also get a set of these 7 worm tokens, which are just a 1-point worm each. So the game plays pretty much similarly to normal Pickomino, where players are going to be rolling the dice and setting aside a value each turn. So for example, doing that, then re-rolling, and then setting aside a different value until they have enough points to grab one of these tiles. So for example, maybe I'd set aside the 8 here, so that'd bring me up to a 23. So you could choose to stop or keep going, but here I have 10, 15, plus 8, 23. So now I'd be able to take this 23 tile, and whenever you interact with one of the tiles that has one of these characters on it, you'll either take the character or something else special will happen. So here on the 23 tile, there is the raven. So what would happen is that I would take the 23 tile as normal, and I would go face up in front of me, just as if I was playing the base game. And then the raven you never actually claim. It just relocates to the lowest value tile on the board, and every time you claim the raven, you'll claim one of these 1-point worm tiles, which will be worth a point at the end of the game. And you'll take it at the start of the game from the general supply, but if these are all gone, you'll be able to steal one of those from any player, and that happens anytime you claim the tile that the raven stands on. So all these figures are going to, if they ever get placed back on the board like the raven just did, they'll just go to the lowest numbered tile. And that would happen either when you claim a second one, you can only hold one at a time, so you'd have to put one back, or if ever you bust on your turn, that would also force you to put one of these back. So let me show you what the other powers of the special tokens do. So the raven I just explained. The golden die, if you claim that, you just essentially on your turn have an extra die to roll. So that could be very powerful, and especially help you get these high values. The weasel, it stands up in front of you, and once per turn you could place it down to re-roll any dice that you've just rolled. So you can't re-roll locked dice, but any dice that you are currently rolling, you could re-roll once per turn. At the end of your turn, after you've used that power, you would just reset the weasel by standing him up. The sitting hen, that will sit on your stack of tiles, and if you ever bust, you'll just place the hen back instead of placing back your tile, and it also protects you from being stolen from. The raven I explained, and the worm, what that will do is it just sits in front of you, and as you're setting aside dice, let's say set aside, these 5s and this 4, I could, even if I didn't roll any worms yet, I could set this aside only if I haven't rolled any worms yet and count that as 1 worm. If I've already set aside worms, I'm not able to use that special power. So with this, I would have 24 plus this, that'd be 29. I'd be able to take that tile, and I would keep that until like I said, I busted, or until I claimed a second animal token and decided to place that back. So the game just in general goes like that. There is one other rule, which is if ever on your turn you're going to roll 2 1s, and set them aside. So if you ever set aside 2 ones, at least 2 ones, actually 2 or more ones, if you have to set aside those on your turn, you would also get to claim one of these 1-point tokens as if you had taken the Raven tile. And again, that would come up from the supply or from another player if there are none left in the supply. And the last wrinkle in the game are these 11 and 13 tiles. You can only take those exactly on a roll of 11 and 13. So, for example, if I had 2 worms, and you'll need a worm to still take them, and a 3 set aside, I'd be able to take the 13. And those go on your stack as normally, but they will protect you from being stolen as long as they're on the top of your stack. You cannot be stolen from. Of course, if you would bust on a turn, you would still flip over the top tile, and you would place back your token. Actually, that'll go face up as normal, so it could be lost that way, and then you would also lose your animal, and that would, like I said, would go on the lowest value tile. So other than that, the game works the same. Whoever has the most worms between these tiles that they've gotten, the numbered tiles, and these little tokens, would still be the winner at the end of the game. Alright, so that is Heckmeck Extrawurm, the expansion to Pickomino. I would tend to play with this most of the time. I'm going to play Pickomino from now on, even though I've played Pickomino for years. This is a new publication. It just, I think, came out in 2015. And the game, it does not add a tremendous amount of complexity, but in a situation where I was playing with people who, aren't familiar with a lot of board games, or are very young, I may not use it the first time we would play. But with most groups, even though there are a number of rules for animals, players are only going to be worrying about the rule for the animal that they personally have during any given turn. So as long as you're there to facilitate that, it's really not much more to pick up on. It does maybe extend the game by up to 5 minutes or so. You are adding 2 extra tiles to the display, which is the endgame trigger when all those tiles are taken. But it adds more fun to it. Just everybody likes getting those cute little animals. The hen is especially cute, protecting your little stack of tiles, or just getting an extra die. That's exciting. So the game, is improved by adding the expansion. It's not necessary by any means. I played Pickomino for years and years before this came out, and I had no problem with the game. It's just something that is there to spice up what is already a really fantastic filler game. So that is Heckmeck Extrawurm, and thanks for watching.